Thank you for joining us for the second of our Wedding Trendsetter interviews that form part of the International Wedding Trend Report for 2017. I am thrilled to be chatting today to Brit Bertino, who is an event producer extraordinaire. Brit and I do go back a way now. We've spoken on the same stage at Cater Source, formerly Idea Factory, and I've interviewed her a couple of times now for Academy TV. And she has to be one of my favourite people in the event industry because I've never known anyone with so much energy. Everything she does, she gives it 150%. So Brit, welcome to our Trendsetter Interviews.
I just got the chills, Kylie. That was the warmest introduction. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please.
You're welcome.
I'm so glad that you invited me back. So I'm
not a problem.
To talk about some.
Perfect. Well, you're currently producing weddings in Las Vegas, all over California, Seattle, and Mexico, I believe. Now, that's quite a big geographic region, and I'm guessing that the clientele differ in the different regions, so I was just wondering if you could sort of talk us through how they differ from one place to another.
Absolutely. So I would say that each of these areas are completely different. The demographics are completely different. The geographics are also different. You have different temperatures. You have destination, which I'm going to start with. Mexico is mostly destination weddings that I'm seeing there. Warm climate, cool breeze, beautiful white sandy beaches. Then you jump to Las Vegas, which is the desert, and everything's over the top. It's glamorous. Everything needs to be bigger and better than anything else. And then you jump to California, and you have a total difference between Northern and Southern California, my personal opinion. So you have Northern California has this more, personally, I think it's the sophisticated feel of, I'm seeing more like a lot of the trends in Northern California are warmer, and then in Southern California are brighter, speaking of color-wise. And then Seattle is like, I get a lot of the techie people in Seattle. And so I'm finding trends to be more technically driven there. So we're going to dive into all these a little bit more. I know you have some great questions for me. And just keep in mind that, these trends that I'm speaking of is what I am seeing on the west side of the United States. And Mexico is, I would say that's East Coast and West Coast for Mexico. But just in general, that's destination driven.
Well, that's really interesting. Just hearing you talk about the fact that it's technology driven in Seattle and totally different in the other states. It works in with what we see here in the UK, where even from region to region in the UK, things can be really different. So as you say, globally, it's difficult to predict any one trend. What you're seeing is all in different regions. And that's fantastic because you can take that sort of thing and use it any way you want to, but it's still a trend. Whether it's trending in Seattle or whether it's trending in London, it's still a trend, but it's interesting to look at marrying the two and seeing what you can come up with. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was inspiration. Now, we all talk about where we get our inspiration from, and I was just interested to know, especially given that you work across so many different dynamics, where do you go for the inspiration for your designs with all these different clientele you have?
I love sitting inside the airports and watching people. So, I get to do international travel and, domestic travel. So I get to see both. And you won't believe how many trends or trendy people are walking through the airport. Fashion-wise, they're carrying the latest in technology. I find a lot in travel. And of course, I'm always constantly looking at fashion. But I always look for fashion in Europe. So you guys, I feel, are always trendsetters. You guys are always maybe 1 to 2 years ahead of us.
Really?
Spain as well. Yes, I do. I feel that way in fashion. Yes.
Okay.
Fashion.
Definitely not in the events industry.
Yeah, not so much in the event side of things, but I feel that your fashion is definitely forward and way ahead of the game. But Spain as well, I find a lot of inspiration in design in Spain, but I'm not just looking at clothing fashion. I'm also looking at architectural design. Yeah. I also feel like I find a lot of trends within that as well. And of course, people are going to laugh at me, but of course I look at Pinterest all the time because my brides are on Pinterest, I have to look on there because I want to see what they're pinning. I think that's important too.
No, fair enough. That's really interesting though. The airport is one I've not heard people say. Most people will talk about nature and walking around and what have you, but the airport is a new one on me. I'm going to be keeping my eyes peeled when I'm next in the airport to see what I can see. So the word trend...
Especially in large...
Sorry, go on.
In larger cities, you're going to find a lot of trendsetters. So if you happen to also be having brunch or lunch or something like that in a larger city, keep your eyes peeled because you'll see a lot of different trends there.
Yeah, very good advice. I'm certainly going to have my eyes peeled when I'm next at the airport, which isn't so far away. So yeah, you've given me something to think about when I'm next at the airport. So the word trend is used a lot, isn't it, in the world of weddings? We're always talking about trends, and being known as a trendsetter is what many of the students at my academy, everywhere pretty much, they aspire to be. So really what I want to know is how you use trends within the design of your business and what do they really mean to you? Because obviously they're things that can be manipulated dependent on your clients and your own business and the way you design.
Yeah, this is a really good question because we do, as producers and designers, need to set ourselves apart from everyone else. But for the most part, my clients really inspire me, and whatever they're asking for, I always like to make my own twist to it.
Yeah.
And it could be fashion, it could be food, it could be, the entertainment they're seeing in their events. See, they can only go so far because we as experts, they've hired us to personally put a bang and a wow effect to their event. So they will ask for certain things, and then it's our job really to bring it out of them a little bit more and show them what resources we have to make it bigger and better than what they're seeing online or Pinterest or at their friends' weddings and things like that. So it is really important. One thing is yes, trends come back in over years, like bell bottoms are one that probably have come back at least 3 times since the 70s, right? But what can we do to make it our own in our own generation? And that's where you have to start thinking outside the box, I think, as students, is how can I make this trend that is popular right now my own? Yeah. And you really do need to have time to sit down, embrace all of it, and come up with something creative. And you know what? One of the best compliments is someone's going to knock it off, and that's okay. Take it as a compliment. Someone's going to take your idea and your own little twist to your own trend, and they'll knock it off. Take it as a compliment. That means that it's good, something people like.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's good advice because we're always hearing people moan about copycats and what have you. But as you say, in a lot of ways, it is a form of flattery, and wherever you go, at the end of the day, we all take an idea and copy it to a degree. We just put our own spin on it, and that's the important part. You take an idea, you twist it, you mold it, you make it unique, and you put your own spin on it. So, yeah, good advice. So, there are only so many ways we can reinvent things, and trends they come and go, but they're on a bit of a cycle. As we've just discussed, something like bell bottoms, they're coming and they're going and they're coming back again. So what are some of the trends that you're seeing doing this in 2017? What are we seeing come back on that trend cycle again?
So we're seeing a lot of what we used to call the bling everything. So that to us was, lots of gems and now we're calling it crystals. So
So it's not bling anymore.
Coming back. It's crystals. You're going to see a lot of crystals, hanging crystals. Okay. Bling was that urban street word, and crystals is like fancy schmancy. I don't know. I can't really explain why we're using crystals, but it's the same thing. Bling, crystal, honey, it's all the same. But I'm seeing a lot of that come back in. I think because I think money's coming back. I think that people are putting some more money into their events. So those little embellishments I'm starting to see those come back in a new way. Nice. Some other trends that I've been seeing is live music. I'm so excited to see live music is coming back. People have more budgets for the live music. Good. So I feel like that's going to be really popular for 2017 is people implementing to make sure that the ceremony, cocktail hour, and reception actually have some live entertainment aspects, whether it's musically or we're going to talk about this in a little bit, is some other type of entertainment that has a lot of interaction within the guests, which is fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's all exciting.
So those are Yeah, absolutely. And I think that those are probably some of the trends that are continuing on for 2017, but I do see a lot of change in trends coming up too.
Okay, okay, good. So, food, obviously, food has become an integral part of an event now. Things have changed around. It's no longer that average affair that it used to be, where you sit down, have a three-course meal, and that's that, and you have very little choice. It's different. We all think we're foodies now. We're all into cooking. We're all connoisseurs. So, how is this affecting the choices that wedding couples are making?
I love food and beverage. This is my favorite element of a wedding. I like pretty little things, but I also like to eat. I would say, okay, so the courses of the meals are still pretty popular, but another thing that was really popular was food stations.
Yes.
So now I'm kind of seeing the food stations go out, and what I'm starting to see come in is couples asking for particular specialty items that they probably eat on a daily basis, not daily, but sometimes. So it
Yeah.
would be in America, we have In-N-Out, which is a huge hamburger chain. People are asking
Love
that they
in
have In-N-Out.
it.
Yeah, see, a lot of people, all my clients that come from other countries say, "Can we stop by In-N-Out?" So they're asking for items that you would normally see in some of their favorite restaurants that they go and visit. Food walls are really popular right now. So if you haven't seen the food walls, I'm going to say a popular one is probably the donut food wall that you're seeing
Yeah.
right now. And as you're walking into the cocktail hour or a late night snack, they roll out these walls that have donuts behind on the walls in different flavors and colors. And you can do all types of different things on these walls, but that's probably the most popular. So if any of you Google just, food walls, donuts, they're going to show up on the internet. But those are really popular right now. Another thing is the food allergies. Everybody
Right.
has some sort of food allergy now, so you're going to start seeing more often on invitations different selections for people's food allergies. So you have vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, whatever it may be. You're going to see a lot of that and a lot of options on the menu. And one last food trend I want to share is I'm seeing a lot of tableside service, so French style service, where they get to pick and choose from an array of items being served for the reception. I'm seeing that, and I love that. I think it's fun because people can pick and choose what they want.
Yeah, that's always popular. Yeah, it suits everybody then, doesn't it? So, that's a good trend. I'm glad that's coming in. But I'm particularly interested in seeing the food walls. I like that idea. We're not seeing that over in the UK yet. So maybe that will be something that will start to emerge as we go into 2017. But who knows? We'll see. But
absolutely,
yeah, we haven't got that yet. So moving on from food and beverage, I'm afraid, is entertainment. You touched on this just now, that there's a lot of interactive forms of entertainment that we're going to be seeing. So do you want to elaborate on that one?
So we seem to have, oversized board games being made. So we have like Jenga, we have chess, and these can either be during the cocktail hour or they're somewhere in the reception space where it allows guests to be interactive with each other. So it's a lot of fun. It's something different. For those that, you have to remember that the younger generation is always in their phones, right?
Absolutely.
So this allows them to be outside of that a little bit. Of course, all of the technology is really important. So I'm going to touch on that, which is also interactive and entertainment. Would probably be right now the popular request I've received in the past 3 months is the geo filters on Snapchat. What that allows is for customization from the bride and groom's their wedding, obviously, and it allows them to do some filters for their guests when they're in that particular space for Snapchat. That has been really popular past few months, and I'll be honest, I'm still trying to learn how to work out the geos, but you can actually hire people to help you with that.
Not my strong point.
Not my strong point either. And hashtags, again, are going to be still popular for next year as well. People are still using the hashtags so they can kind of get the collage photos from everyone. Instagram and Facebook, all those are really, really important as well during the reception. And then photo booths or what we call the slow-mo video booths seem to be really popular, that allows them to also instantly post at the wedding.
So that
then you get to the couples that are opposite, though, real quick, couples that are opposite that want everybody to deplug and actually not have their cell phones at all during the wedding. And we've seen this as not a popular trend, but for those that just say, let the photographer take the professional pictures, we'll hold their cell phones during ceremony time just so that nobody's standing up during the ceremony taking random photos, and it kind of interrupts the intimacy of a ceremony.
Which is true, and we've seen a little bit of that over here as well, you know, put your cell phones in the basket at the door type thing. But it sounds to me from what you've just described there's a bit of a mixture of entertainment going on, so old versus new, along with, you know, the giant games, which is interactive but in a completely different way, as you say, from what youngsters are used to today. And then, of course, you've still got the whole technology side of things with things like Snapchat and the geolocators and what have you, which, as I say, are a little beyond me at the moment. But giant games I can do. they I'm good with.
Yes.
So that's good.
Yes.
So in terms of design, obviously, we've touched on this a little bit, where you've talked about bling versus crystals, which was it crystals? Yep. It was crystals, wasn't it? Yes.
Yes, crystals.
So what are brides being drawn to at the moment, aside from the crystals?
So lately we seem to be getting a trend with gems, actual like rocks and gems, real natural geoids and things like that. Couples are asking for that. So I had some examples here. Nice. Some natural rocks. And my earrings probably have something similar to that. We have a lot of trends in nudes and transparent colors. I'm sure you're going to see a lot of that for next year, particularly in the wedding gowns. It's that bohemian look that seems to be out and about everywhere. Again, that varies from one region to the next. Yeah. And then proclaimed items. So lots, again, more rocks, freshly picked looking flowers that are really whimsical looking. It looks like you just went out to the garden and grabbed all that. That seems to be a really popular item as well. And with the wedding gowns, I'm going to jump into the wedding gowns a little bit. I'm seeing, blush has always been kind of popular. I feel like more and more of my clients are asking for blush gowns or some sort of color, but it's more in the nudes and the blush tones that I'm getting requests for in the gowns.
So nothing too over the top, no sort of bright reds or anything like that. It's very much more on a neutral basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And black, I would say that was more of a couple years ago, but haven't had that request in a while as well.
Okay, can't say I'm sorry about the black. It's not really the look you necessarily want to go for at a wedding, is it? Not my taste, anyway.
Well, I do have to say, it does make some of us look really slender.
Well, that's always a bonus, I must admit. Especially as I'm getting older, I'm always happy to look a little slimmer, but who's not at the end of the day? So another thing that we've seen a lot of, particularly over the last couple of years, has been personalisation. Everything is being very personalised. And I guess what I really wanted to know is, are you seeing that continue further into 2017 and even 2018?
Yes, I'm definitely getting those requests on the monogram still. Yeah. Definitely on the photo booths, need to be customized still. Some other trends, people will incorporate travel. So the couples, if they've traveled a lot with each other, they find creative ways to implement it into the wedding. So it could be through collecting postcards and using that as the sign-in book. And then the mother of the bride or one of the family members sends out the love notes from the guests on the postcards throughout the year after they've been married. So they kind of get their notes from their guests from the wedding instead of actually having a sign-in book. And I thought that was really creative. Or they've used pictures of them in these particular areas. I had one couple that loved going to France. They had a special feeling with France, so we created in the wedding reception a very boutique style candy bar that was really drawn towards France, and the pastries and things like that. So you're going to see a lot of personalization where couples are bringing things like that into into their wedding that means something special to them.
So clearly, yeah, absolutely, that trend's not going anywhere then. Personalization just seems to be getting bigger rather than smaller, which I prefer. It's nice to see couples putting their own stamp on things rather than having a cookie cutter wedding. So.
And I would like to add on the food and beverage side of things is if they have a particular cultural background, I've noticed that they're requesting foods that they've grown up with from their cultural backgrounds.
Okay.
And chefs love that. Chefs love that because it allows them to be really creative in the back and doing something different that's off the normal menu, but it means something, again, to not just the couple, but probably their entire families.
Yeah, very true. And you can imagine it must get a bit boring doing the same type of food all the time. So being able to put a creative twist on it is always interesting. And if you can get the chefs on side, then that has to be a good thing, right? So one last thing I wanted to talk to you about, and this isn't really specifically to do with trends. This is more to do with designing weddings, really, because we talk a lot about storytelling with our students. And we're always trying to impress on them the importance of research and really creating a visual in the customer's mind when they're doing their presentation and putting together their proposal. So what I really wanted you to do, if you wouldn't mind, was give some words of advice to our students on storytelling within a client proposal.
So I was never good at writing, ever, but I'm really good at drawing and sketching and coming up with really creative ideas. For me, since I do so much destination, I really have to be a creative writer because I have to develop all these ideas in my mind into script. If you have the opportunity to be in client at all, I highly recommend that you start with a rendering board, that you pick and pull some of their concepts and your own concepts, try and get them on the same page to the design, and you have to, rotate pictures out until you finally get to where you need to be. If you're really good at drawing, sketch stuff. Clients love that. If you have the ability to hire somebody to do a 3D rendering, or you have the skills to do something like that, and you have a really large event, start creating things like that. Clients are really impressed, but it helps you tell that story. Now, that's if you're in front of the client. If you're not in front of the client, I have to go back and forth with design concepts virtually, which doesn't allow me to create an actual board, inspirational board, where they can touch and feel different textures, such as, linens. It could be larger pictures and patterns. That I like being in front of the client, but if you don't have the capability to do that, you need to understand how to lay it out very cleanly in a proposal that's going to be sent to them. And then that's when your writing skills and your storytelling is going to be important. If you can't do that, then this is perfect. Get on Skype and walk them through the proposal. But you got to use really creative words as well. That's going to get their mind going. That's going to make them fantasize about this special day, right? So using whimsical and words like majestic, those are going to allow them to get excited and visualize their space. And it's hard for them to do that. We can do it as professionals, but it's very difficult for clients to understand because, remember, they don't do what we do every single day.
That is great advice, and certainly using adjectives and describing words, as my English teacher used to tell me at school, is the best way of going, because those words are there for a reason, and they create the visual in your mind, and that's exactly what you're wanting to do with the client. So it's always good to hear other people's perspective, because the students hear a lot from us here at the Academy, but it's nice to hear other people's perspectives and the way that they do it. And as you say, the best way always has to be sitting in front of the client, but that's not always possible. So it's being able to deal with those other situations that I think a lot of them struggle with. So thank you for that. So Brit, that's brought us to the end of our interview. But it has been, as always, a pleasure to talk to you, and you have given me so many trends that are up and coming in your variety of different geographical regions that there's a lot there for us to be able to take away, and it doesn't matter where we're located. The fact is that these trends are going to filter their way through to all of the different regions eventually. But if you really want to be a trendsetter and it hasn't reached your region yet, well, you've just given our listeners and viewers a lot to take away with them. So thank you for joining us, and you're contributing as well to our International Wedding Trend Report. So all of your pearls of wisdom, predictions, etc. will be in that report as well. So again, thank you for helping us with that. So all that remains is for me to say, don't forget to join us next week when we will be speaking to Kristen Banter and Mary Fan. You've been listening to Kylie Carlson, who has been here with Brit Bertino. So thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody. Keep getting inspired. Keep your mind open and look for these things because you are a trendsetter. Trust me. People are looking at you.